What's going on, everybody? Matthew back again, this time for another movie review. Today we were reviewing Alien Romulus. Let's get into it. Okay, so let's start with the plot. Okay, so people are stuck on a mining planet and they desperately want to leave. They find out about an abandoned station that has cryopods that they plan to steal and use to take a 9-year journey to another planet with sunlight and freedom. They arrive on this creepy ship and have to survive. There was nothing new introduced that we haven't seen before, other than one sequence with zero gravity and acid blood that I found to be unique, but was not very long lasting. They get guns, and the male character all of a sudden knows how to operate them because he's played games, and I guess he's read some military magazines, but he doesn't share this information until it's time to use the guns, so it's absolutely too convenient. But really, the only reason they get those pulse rifles is to call back to and remember bury the pulse rifles from Aliens, when Hicks is teaching Ripley to use a pulse rifle, and they copied that as well. It's a bunch of highlights from the best parts of the originals, mashed together to make a new movie that we would like, except I didn't. I don't think I'll ever watch this movie again. By the end of the movie, the threat isn't even a xenomorph, which is what people spend their money to see. This was a research vessel they boarded, and I believe they missed a great opportunity to have different xenomorphs that had bursts out of different animals, such as bears, tigers, gators, birds, etc. Like, what happens if a chestburster comes out of a falcon? How cool and original would that have been? And obviously you can have your original human xenomorph that maybe is the leader of them all. It's such a shame. But instead they go with a goofy looking mutated engineer who is always smiling. Also, when it comes to the ending of the movie, when compared to the first two films, where there's a final battle involving an alien being aboard their ship, when they didn't know there was, the audience didn't know that either. But here that's not the case. We clearly know there's another alien aboard because we witnessed the girl put the black goo into her body, so we know that's going to pay off at some point. We're just waiting for it. So there's no surprise when it happens. Really, we're all just waiting to see if it's going to affect the woman, the child inside her, or both. And it's mainly just the child, and we're waiting to see what it's going to look like. And even that's disappointing. They could have easily fixed that by us not witnessing the girl inject the black goo into herself, and we could have found out when Rain did, which would have been far more effective. The movie was interesting up until they decided to use the destroyed android, and it's revealed to be another version of Ash from Alien. And then from then on, it's nothing but a highlight reel of everything we've seen before. Just a lot of member berries. I'm going to have to give the plot a 5 out of 10. It's average. Okay, let's talk about the writing. The only part that stands out is when the synthetic Andy left someone behind, and then he called them out on their hypocrisy because they were all planning on leaving him behind when they arrived at their dream planet, because on that planet it's illegal for synthetics to be there, unbeknownst to Andy. That's really the only thing. Negatively, there were a lot of callbacks and member berries, where there was Andy saying, "Get away from her, you bitch," which is obviously a line from Aliens, or Rook telling them that they have his sympathies, which is a line from Alien. They introduced one of the characters being pregnant, which at first I thought they had added just to add some sympathy to that character, to add more gravity to her assumed death, just to find out she's still alive. And the real reason she was pregnant was to introduce the final alien, which I thought turned out to be disappointing and not really what I paid to see. The characters were not very likable. Andy was the most interesting as a synthetic character, and his quote-unquote sister, Rain, wasn't bad either. There wasn't anything really unlikable about her, and her motivation was sound and understandable considering she just wanted to live somewhere nice and not oppressive. The pregnant girl, Kay, played by Isabella Merced, is just that, the pregnant girl. She's basically there just to be a plot device to introduce an alien that no one really paid to see. There's also the character Bjorn, played by Spike Fern, who's a complete dick, and not just to the synthetic Andy, but also to Andy's quote-unquote sister, Rain. I'll never understand why writers write anyone to be annoying or rude in horror movies, but it completely takes away the tension when those characters are in dangerous situations, because you want them to die. I understand that some people find that to be entertaining, waiting and anticipating an annoying or rude character to meet their end, but horror movies are supposed to be scary, and you shouldn't be cheering when they die. At least make us think they're good people before revealing their true character. Before they die, similar to Burke in Aliens, where we didn't know him to be a dick the entire time until it was ultimately revealed to be one. As far as the other two characters, Navarro, played by Aileen Wu, and Tyler, played by Archie Renault, they were fine. Navarro doesn't get enough screen time before she's ultimately killed by a chestburster, so we don't really get to know her very well. As for Tyler, he has plenty of screen time and seems likable enough, but when he meets his fate, you don't really care because there wasn't anything that really stood out. There wasn't any humor in this film, which is something that can be used to make audiences really like and care for characters. And it adds enough to care about when he dies. If you look to the first two Alien films, some of the characters were humorous, or had humorous moments, such as Brett, who says right to everything that Parker says, which isn't laugh out loud funny, but is humorous. And it gives us something to latch onto with that character, and adds enough to care when he dies. Also in Aliens, we all remember the late great Bill Paxton as Hudson, who was very humorous in his role. So humorous, in fact, that you didn't want him to die, so that when he does ultimately die, you hate it, and you feel a loss, which never happens in this movie. For the writing, I have to give it a 2 out of 10. Okay, so the cinematography. The CGI with the synthetic rook was bad. Very good other than some janky CGI. There's a lot of practical effects, which should be applauded, but what it does is make the small amount of CGI in the film really stand out, and it makes you wonder why that CGI was there in the first place. For example, there's one shot that you can call a nitpick, but I think it's a good example, which is when they are first taking off from the planet. We cut to a shot of the back of the ship to CGI flames, when up to that point there was a lot of practical effects, or hidden CGI in the background that wasn't noticed because it was well done. But then you cut to the shot of a CGI fire from the back of the ship when they're taking off, and I can't help but notice it. The terrible use of CGI on Rook's face, and for how much is shown in the film, does a huge disservice to an otherwise really well shot and good looking movie. I have to give the cinematography an 8 out of 10. The acting. It's fine. I didn't really notice anything bad the entire movie. Even the character of Bjorn, who you're supposed to hate, is good because he does a good job of making us hate him. I thought David Johnson, who plays Andy, did very well and stood out as the best to me, portraying a synthetic. I completely believed he was a synthetic, other than one moment towards the end, when he wakes up and he's breathing heavy. I don't believe synthetics breathe at all, because they don't need to, so that was weird, and it wasn't like he was trying to pretend to be human or anything. I don't put this moment entirely on the actor, but on the director as well, but you can call that a nitpick. I give the acting a 9 out of 10. And finally, the pace. I cannot say the movie dragged. I was never bored, just disappointed. We move from scene to scene at a fine pace, and really the movie doesn't take too much time to breathe. We're constantly running from either facehuggers or xenomorphs. You could have had a scene where characters are trapped in a room discussing their life, or they hope to do, which could have dragged the pace down, but that never happens. And I have to give the movie credit for that. I really don't have any complaints about the pace of the film. I have to give the pace a 10 out of 10. So in summary, I give the movie a 6.8 out of 10, which is a failing grade. The movie fails. It succeeds in visuals and pace, but that's really about it. It doesn't deliver enough for me to recommend the movie or want to see it again. But anyway, guys, that's my review. Let me know what you guys thought of the movie in the comments below. And please hit that like button and please subscribe. And we'll catch you guys next time. Take it easy, guys.